For centuries, the story of North America has been told in fragments, often beginning with the arrival of European explorers or perhaps just briefly touching upon the nomadic tribes they encountered. We are taught to believe that before this modern era, the vast continent was largely a wilderness, sparsely populated by hunter-gatherer societies or, at best, communities whose technological and architectural prowess remained rudimentary. Everything you've been led to understand about the origins of civilization on this continent may be an incomplete truth. What if the land beneath our bustling cities and quiet farmlands holds secrets of an earlier, highly organized society? What if our very understanding of pre-Columbian North America has overlooked a monumental chapter, written not on parchment, but etched into the very earth itself? These aren't mere conjectures, but questions born from an increasingly undeniable body of evidence. So, sit back, relax, and allow your mind to wander beyond the textbooks, to a time and a people whose echoes still whisper from the ancient soil. Across the North American continent, from the gentle hills of Ohio to the fertile valleys of the Mississippi, and stretching into regions far beyond, there lie silent giants carved from the earth itself. These are not geological formations, nor are they simple, haphazard mounds. They are colossal earthworks, vast geometric enclosures, perfectly formed circles, squares, octagons, and intricate effigies, often spreading across hundreds, sometimes thousands of acres. Imagine avenues precisely aligned for miles, plazas meticulously leveled, and earthen walls rising 10, 20, even 40 feet high, forming complexes so grand they dwarf many of Europe's most famous ancient ruins. These aren't just hills, they are monuments deliberately shaped and placed, speaking of a mastery over the landscape that defies easy explanation. Consider the Great Circle at Newark, Ohio, an almost perfect earthen circle over 1,000 feet in diameter, encompassing 50 acres, connected by parallel walls nearly 2 miles long to an equally precise octagon. Or the sprawling Poverty Point in Louisiana, a complex of concentric ridges and mounds spanning 500 acres, built an astonishing 3,500 years ago. Then there is Serpent Mound, an effigy so grand it seems to writhe across a quarter-mile of landscape, its head pointing towards the summer solstice sunset, its curves echoing celestial movements. These are not isolated anomalies, but part of a vast, interconnected network of sites, each bearing the hallmark of sophisticated design and immense labor. Their scale is breathtaking, their geometry precise, and their very existence presents a profound challenge to established narratives. The prevailing historical and archaeological view for generations has been that these earthworks, often broadly categorized as mounds, were constructed by various indigenous groups over many centuries, primarily for burial purposes, ceremonial gatherings, or as simple defensive enclosures. This perspective acknowledges the skill and dedication of these early tribal peoples, but it often frames their societies as relatively rudimentary, operating without advanced tools, complex social hierarchies, or extensive scientific knowledge. Mainstream theories suggest that these structures were built through communal effort, using simple digging sticks, baskets, and sheer human will, reflecting a gradual evolution of social organization among hunter-gatherers or early agriculturalists. The geometric precision, when noted, is often attributed to intuitive observation or perhaps the skilled eye of a few leaders, rather than a systematic application of advanced mathematics or surveying techniques. For many, the idea that these could represent anything more than the localized efforts of distinct, less connected tribes has remained a fringe notion. But there is a problem with this explanation. A significant, persistent problem that begins to unravel the moment one truly engages with the physical evidence. The sheer scale of these earthworks, their breathtaking precision, and the undeniable evidence of long-term, systematic planning defy the idea of simple, fragmented tribal efforts. Consider the earth moved, at some sites, Cubic miles of soil were excavated and meticulously placed, often by hand, without the benefit of metal tools, draft animals, or the wheel. This isn't just a group of people piling up dirt. It's an engineering feat on a scale that rivals the construction of the pyramids, requiring an estimated millions of labor hours over decades, even centuries. How could such massive projects be organized and sustained by societies described as semi-nomadic or loosely structured? Furthermore, the geometric accuracy is not merely impressive, it is astonishing. The walls of the Newark octagon, for instance, are parallel to within a fraction of a degree over vast distances, and the corners are perfectly squared. The circles are truly circular, not approximations. These are not coincidences. They are the result of deliberate design and advanced surveying. How could such precision be achieved without sophisticated tools for measurement, trigonometry, or even basic geometry? The angles observed in some complexes suggest a grasp of mathematical principles far beyond what is commonly attributed to these ancient cultures. The alignments to celestial events, the solstices, equinoxes, and specific lunar phases, are too numerous and too accurate to be accidental. They point to a profound understanding of astronomy, a deep knowledge of the cycles of the heavens, which in turn implies a stable, contemplative society with specialized knowledge keepers. The planning involved suggests a long-term vision, perhaps even generations of commitment to a grand architectural and cosmological scheme, far removed from the immediate needs of subsistence often associated with early tribal life. These anomalies force us to reconsider. What if these incredible structures are not merely the products of scattered independent tribes, but the remnants of a highly organized, sophisticated pre-Columbian civilization? This alternative perspective suggests a society, or perhaps a network of interconnected societies, that possessed a deep understanding of engineering, astronomy, and mathematics. Such a civilization would have required a complex social structure to mobilize and manage vast labor forces, perhaps a hierarchical system with specialized roles for architects, engineers, astronomers, and laborers. It would imply an economy capable of sustaining large populations, providing food, shelter, and resources for monumental public works, suggesting stable agricultural practices and efficient resource management. Could it be that these mound builders were not simply early indigenous peoples in a loosely defined sense, but the inheritors of a knowledge system that has been forgotten? Theories suggest the possibility of a civilization that developed unique methods of measurement, perhaps based on natural harmonics or a profound understanding of the landscape itself. What if they employed sophisticated acoustic principles in their designs or utilized unique hydrological engineering to shape their environments? Some researchers believe these earthworks may represent not just physical structures, but a form of encoded knowledge, a vast mnemonic device or a cosmological map inscribed into the very terrain. This would mean they were not just building for practical purposes, but for the transmission of complex ideas, spiritual beliefs, and perhaps even scientific data across generations. The sheer scale and widespread distribution of similar designs across the continent hint at a shared cultural sphere, an overarching organizational principle, rather than purely localized traditions. Could there have been a vast empire, a confederation of highly advanced settlements, or a spiritual network that unified diverse peoples under a common, monumental architectural vision? If a civilization thousands of years ago in North America possessed the capabilities to conceive, plan, and execute such impossibly massive and precise earthworks, what else were they capable of? Who were these enigmatic architects whose mastery of the land and the heavens challenges everything we thought we knew about early human achievement on this continent? What deep, forgotten truths about their lives, their beliefs, and their eventual disappearance lie buried within these silent, earthen echoes? From the enigmatic outlines etched into the vast North American landscape, hinting at a past far richer and more complex than commonly understood, we are drawn now to a specific site that perhaps most powerfully encapsulates the enduring mystery of these forgotten builders, a place where the earth itself rises in monumental testament to an ancient and vibrant society. Deep in the heart of what is now Illinois, just across the Mississippi River from modern-day St. Louis, lies the ancient complex known as Cahokia. To stand within its sprawling embrace is to confront a scale of human endeavor in North America that is, for many, utterly bewildering. Here, over 120 artificial earthen mounds in varying shapes and sizes once formed the beating heart of what appears to have been a vast and meticulously organized city. These aren't simply hills. They are deliberate sculpted landforms, some rising to astonishing heights, meticulously constructed over centuries. The sheer scope of Cahokia, stretching across 6 square miles, suggests a hub of human activity unparalleled in its time on this continent, a place where tens of thousands, perhaps even 100,000 souls once lived, worked, and worshipped. It presents itself as a true ancient metropolis, a monumental anomaly that challenges our ingrained perceptions of pre-Columbian North America. The mainstream historical and archaeological narrative acknowledges Cahokia as a significant site. It is recognized as the largest and most complex pre-Columbian settlement north of Mexico, often attributed to the Mississippian culture flourishing between roughly 1050 and 1200 CE. Scholars largely describe it as a highly influential regional center, a powerful chiefdom, or a large, advanced village. They point to its agricultural prowess, its strategic location for trade, and the clear evidence of a stratified society that supported its growth. The construction of the mounds, while impressive, is generally seen as the culmination of communal effort within the capabilities of a developing agrarian society, a remarkable but ultimately rudimentary form of urbanism that falls short of the definition of a true city in the classical sense, often being labeled a large ceremonial or trade hub rather than a fully functioning metropolis with all the implied infrastructure. But there's a persistent problem with describing Cahokia merely as a large, rudimentary Mississippian village, or even simply a chiefdom. When one truly grasps its scale, its design, and the implications of its estimated population, the traditional explanations begin to fray. The complexity and sheer magnitude of Cahokia seem to far exceed what is typically associated with a village or even a chiefdom, forcing us to consider if we are dramatically underestimating the sophistication of these ancient North American inhabitants. Its characteristics, when examined closely, seem to align more closely with ancient cities found in other parts of the world, sites like Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica, or even some of the early urban centers of Europe and the Near East, rather than what one might expect from a rudimentary settlement. Consider the meticulously planned urban layout of Cahokia itself. Far from being an organic sprawl of dwellings, archaeological investigations have revealed a highly organized grid system, particularly in the central core. Major plazas, clearly delineated and carefully leveled, served as public gathering spaces, oriented with a precision that hints at a sophisticated understanding of surveying and potentially even astronomical alignment. This wasn't a haphazard collection of huts. It was a designed urban environment, suggesting a powerful central authority capable of orchestrating massive public works and dictating spatial organization across a vast area. Such planning implies a degree of foresight, social control, and engineering capability that goes far beyond what is required for a simple village, demanding specialized knowledge and a highly disciplined workforce. At the heart of this ancient city stands Monk's Mound, the largest prehistoric earthen construction in the Americas. Rising over 100 feet high and covering an astonishing 14 acres at its base, its footprint is actually larger than that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It is a multi-tiered, terraced platform mound requiring an estimated 22 million cubic feet of earth to construct, all painstakingly carried by hand in baskets from nearby borrow pits. The sheer logistics of moving such an immense volume of soil, of compacting it to create a stable structure, and of maintaining its precise angles and terraces over centuries, speaks to a level of engineering prowess and labor organization that is frankly staggering. It implies not just a significant population, but one that was highly organized, centrally directed, and capable of sustained, coordinated effort on a monumental scale. To construct such a colossal edifice without the benefit of draft animals or metal tools challenges our assumptions about the primitive nature of these societies. Could such an undertaking be the work of anything less than a highly advanced urban civilization? Then there are the population estimates. While figures vary, most researchers agree that Cahokia's core population could have ranged from 10,000 to 20,000 residents at its peak, with the surrounding farming communities and satellite towns potentially swelling the total number linked to the Cahokian sphere of influence to anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 people. To put this into perspective, at its zenith, Cahokia was larger than London was in the 11th or 12th century and rivaled many of the great European cities of its day. Sustaining such a massive population required an incredibly efficient and robust system of food production, storage, distribution, and waste management. It implies a complex economic system, sophisticated agricultural techniques, and a governance structure capable of maintaining order, sanitation, and resource allocation for tens of thousands of individuals. This goes far beyond the typical logistical demands of a village and enters the realm of true urban management, demanding a level of societal sophistication that bewilders researchers. Furthermore, evidence of extensive trade networks stretching thousands of miles paints a picture of Cahokia not as an isolated settlement, but as a vibrant economic powerhouse. Copper from the Lake Superior region, conch shells from the Gulf Coast, and mica from the Appalachian Mountains have all been found at Cahokia. These weren't simply goods passing through. They suggest a powerful central authority that controlled or influenced vast trade routes, facilitating the movement of luxury items and raw materials. Such extensive economic reach and political influence are hallmarks of a complex, centralized state, not a loosely organized chiefdom. It implies diplomatic relations, alliances, and possibly even military power to secure these trade advantages, further supporting the idea of a metropolitan center of immense importance, the presence of specialized artisans, distinct residential zones, and elaborate burial practices, particularly for elite individuals, further underscores the profound social stratification present at Cahokia. The Mound 72 burial, for instance, contained a male figure laid on a bed of over 20,000 shell beads, surrounded by numerous sacrificial victims and grave goods, including finely crafted tools and weaponry. Such a burial speaks volumes about the immense power, wealth, and spiritual significance of certain individuals within Cahokian society. This level of social hierarchy, with specialized labor, distinct social classes, and the ability to command human life on a grand scale, is characteristic of highly organized civilizations, not simple tribal structures. It prompts us to consider the nature of their leadership and the societal beliefs that underpinned such stark inequalities and monumental sacrifices. Some alternative researchers ponder whether Cahokia functioned as more than just a political or economic center, but also as a profound spiritual nexus. The presence of Woodhenge, a series of large timber circles aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, suggests a deep understanding of celestial mechanics and a strong connection to astronomical observation. These alignments would have played a crucial role in regulating agricultural cycles and ceremonial life, further demonstrating the advanced intellectual capabilities of its builders. This astronomical precision, combined with the geometric layout of the city, points to a comprehensive worldview that integrated the terrestrial and celestial realms, a characteristic often associated with high civilizations. Could Cahokia have been a sacred city, a pilgrimage site attracting people from vast distances, requiring an equally vast infrastructure to support them? If Cahokia was indeed a true metropolis, a sophisticated city rivaling its European contemporaries, it necessitates a radical rethinking of pre-Columbian history in North America. It suggests a level of societal organization, engineering skill, astronomical knowledge, and political complexity that is often reserved for cultures of the Old World, or Mesoamerica. It challenges the notion that North American indigenous peoples were exclusively nomadic or lived in small, self-sufficient villages. So if Cahokia was this magnificent, highly organized urban center, a true testament to advanced societal development in ancient North America, what powerful societal structure allowed such a city to thrive for centuries, building monuments of unparalleled scale, and then rather abruptly to seemingly vanish, leaving behind only the earthen echoes of its once vibrant life. The silence of its abandonment, the lack of clear written records detailing its rise and fall, leaves us with a profound, unanswered question. What forces led to the disappearance of this great city, and what vital lessons might its forgotten story hold for our understanding of human civilization itself? The whispers of the earth, as we've begun to hear them, speak not only of grand urban centers like Cahokia, but also of a profound, almost mystical connection to the cosmos. As we delve deeper into the landscapes of North America, we find not just monumental structures, but sprawling, intricate maps etched into the very soil, reflecting an ancient understanding of the heavens. These aren't random patterns or simple earthworks. They are testaments to a forgotten science, monuments built with an astronomer's precision and a mathematician's mind. Our journey takes us now to the ancient grounds of Ohio, where an enigma of staggering scale and accuracy unfolds before us, the Newark earthworks. Here, spread across several square miles, are geometric formations of an impossibly massive scale, a perfect circle connected to an octagon, alongside immense squares and other complex shapes. These aren't isolated mounds, but a connected series of vast enclosures, some reaching over 1/2 a mile in circumference, all meticulously constructed from earth. For centuries, these formations have stood as silent witnesses to an age we are only now beginning to comprehend. The mainstream perspective, for a long time, held that these impressive earthworks were primarily defensive fortifications, perhaps ceremonial gathering places or even rudimentary burial sites, built by indigenous groups with a developing understanding of their environment. It was often suggested that their geometric regularity, while notable, was perhaps more coincidental than intentional, or achieved through simpler trial-and-error methods over generations. The scale and effort, while acknowledged, were typically seen as products of communal labor within established tribal structures, gradually evolving their architectural capabilities. This explanation suggests a people connected to their immediate surroundings, marking territory and creating spaces for their rituals and protection, with any apparent celestial alignments being a fortunate byproduct. But there's a profound problem with this explanation, one that emerges when we examine the Newark earthworks with modern surveying instruments and a deeper understanding of astronomy. The precision of these structures defies easy categorization as simple or coincidental. The octagon earthworks, for instance, encompasses 50 acres and is nearly perfectly aligned to the 8 major lunar standstills, a celestial cycle that repeats every 18.6 years. This isn't a crude approximation. The alignment is so accurate that even today, astronomers marvel at its exactitude. The central axis of the octagon points directly to the northernmost moonrise, and other key features align to various phases of the moon's complex journey across the sky. Furthermore, the geometric relationships between the various components, the precise squareness of the square, the perfect circularity of the circle, and their exact scaling suggest a deep understanding of Euclidean geometry and units of measurement far beyond what is conventionally attributed to societies of that era. The exact square, for example, shares a perimeter with the 1,200-foot diameter Great Circle, a relationship that implies a mathematical sophistication not commonly associated with these early cultures. The sheer volume of Earth moved, estimated in the millions of cubic feet, speaks to an organized society capable of grand engineering projects. executed with an almost obsessive dedication to precision. Could it be that the Newark earthworks were not merely defensive walls or ceremonial grounds, but a monumental open-air observatory, a vast celestial clock meticulously designed to track the intricate dance of the moon? Some researchers propose that the builders possessed an advanced cosmological understanding, perhaps even a sacred science, where the rhythms of the heavens were deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs and practical lives. Theories range from the idea that these alignments served as a crucial calendar for agricultural cycles and religious observances, to the more provocative notion that they were built to encode and preserve a sophisticated body of astronomical knowledge for future generations. What if they employed surveying techniques, perhaps using plumb bobs, stretched ropes, or even water leveling, that were far more advanced than currently acknowledged? Some suggest the use of specific geometric ratios and mathematical constants in their construction, implying a level of abstract thought and calculation that pushes the boundaries of conventional historical timelines. It's even been theorized that these constructions might represent a form of ancient land art, intended to reflect a cosmic order onto the terrestrial plane, transforming the landscape into a sacred text of the stars. If a civilization thousands of years ago in North America had the capability to achieve such geometric perfection and astronomical accuracy on such a grand scale, without known advanced tools, and encode complex lunar cycles into Earth itself, what else were they capable of understanding and constructing? What profound cosmic secrets did they seek to communicate, and why did this knowledge ultimately fade from memory? But Newark isn't the only landscape that compels us to gaze upwards in search of ancient truths. Further south in Ohio, another extraordinary earthwork rises from the rolling hills, capturing the imagination with its mysterious form: the Great Serpent Mound. Stretching over 1,300 feet in length, this colossal effigy mound depicts a winding serpent, its head pointed towards a cliff, its body undulating with 7 coils, and its tail spiraling towards an enigmatic conical mound. The very sight of it is awe-inspiring, an ancient creature frozen in time, silently observing the heavens for generations. The mainstream view considered Serpent Mound a symbolic representation, perhaps of a specific clan or tribal deity, or a site of burial and ritual significance for the fort ancient culture, who are often associated with the mound's construction. Its shape was seen as artistic or spiritual, a testament to the cultural expression of early Native American peoples, but its astronomical properties were often dismissed as mere coincidence or wishful thinking by fringe enthusiasts. The sheer scale and serpentine form were impressive, but the underlying scientific sophistication was not widely acknowledged within conventional archaeological circles. Yet, there's a critical problem with this limited interpretation. When the Serpent Mound is examined with a critical eye and its cardinal points measured precisely, a startling picture emerges. The head of the serpent aligns precisely to the summer solstice sunset, while its coils and tail align to the winter solstice sunrise and the spring and autumn equinoxes. The eyes of the serpent, some researchers argue, gaze towards the setting sun on the summer solstice, while its body's undulations correspond to key solar and lunar events. This isn't a mere approximate alignment. The precision suggests a deliberate and profound understanding of the solar calendar. Moreover, some theories posit connections to specific constellations or celestial events, with the serpent's form perhaps mirroring the path of a comet or the Milky Way across the ancient night sky. The sheer effort to create such an enormous and detailed effigy, aligned with such celestial precision, points to more than just simple symbolism. It suggests a monumental commitment to observing and understanding the cosmos. Could the Serpent Mound be more than just a representation of a creature, but a monumental cosmic calendar, a sacred astronomical device designed to track and celebrate the annual cycle of the sun and possibly even the moon and stars? Some researchers believe it served as a ceremonial ground where important celestial events were observed and honored, marking the passage of seasons for an entire culture. Other, more speculative theories suggest that it could have been a tool for teaching, a physical manifestation of ancient cosmological narratives, perhaps connected to the cyclical nature of time and the universe. What if the builders possessed an understanding of precession, the slow wobble of the Earth's axis, and encoded this long-term astronomical cycle into the very form of the serpent? It has even been proposed that the mound's location and orientation might have been chosen for specific telluric energy lines or geomagnetic anomalies, integrating celestial observation with a deeper understanding of the Earth itself. If the undulating form of the serpent mound precisely encodes the celestial mechanics of our solar system, what advanced cosmological understanding underpinned its creation? And what profound secrets about our place in the universe did its builders intend to communicate across millennia? What forgotten knowledge lies dormant within its earthen coils, waiting for us to decipher its silent message? Our journey across these ancient North American landscapes continues, leading us now to a place unlike any other. Situated on a remote bluff overlooking a bayou in northeastern Louisiana, Poverty Point. Here, an impossibly massive and complex geometric settlement of concentric earthen ridges and mounds stretches for hundreds of acres, defying conventional archaeological timelines and our understanding of early human societies in North America. These aren't simple burial mounds. They are a series of 6 concentric octagonal ridges separated by ditches, forming a colossal C-shaped pattern, with a central plaza and several large mounds strategically placed within and around the complex. The mainstream archaeological view has long classified Poverty Point as a large, early hunter-gatherer settlement, perhaps a gathering place for trade or ritual, built by what is considered a relatively mobile and unspecialized society. It was believed that the concentric ridges served as platforms for dwellings, with the monumental construction being the result of generations of cumulative effort by a people just beginning to transition from nomadic lifestyles. The sheer scale was acknowledged, but the precision and implied social organization were often downplayed, attributed to simpler forms of communal labor rather than a highly advanced civilization. But there's an immediate and profound problem with this explanation, one that emerges when we consider the sheer scale, geometric precision, and the monumental labor involved. The 6 concentric ridges at Poverty Point are estimated to contain over 1.7 million cubic yards of earth, moved largely by hand, possibly in woven baskets. This colossal undertaking suggests a massive, highly organized labor force, capable of sophisticated planning and execution, operating over a remarkably short period, perhaps only a few decades, rather than centuries, which is virtually unheard of for a supposed hunter-gatherer society. Furthermore, recent archaeological studies using remote sensing and precise measurements have revealed that the entire layout of Poverty Point, from its concentric ridges to its central plaza and major mounds, aligns with striking astronomical precision. The central axis of the site, particularly the Great Central Mound, Mound A, and its orientation, appears to be aligned to the summer solstice sunrise. Other researchers propose that the entire complex functions as a grand observatory, with specific mounds and pathways marking critical celestial events throughout the year, transforming the landscape into a vast astronomical clock. The geometric layout, too, exhibits an astonishing degree of regularity and symmetry, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of surveying and engineering principles that defy the conventional narrative of the period. Could Poverty Point have been far more than a simple hunter-gatherer village, perhaps functioning as a highly organized ceremonial center, a vast astronomical mapping project, or even an early, sophisticated planned community with a specific cosmological purpose? Some researchers believe that the builders possessed an advanced understanding of geometry, mathematics, and engineering, allowing them to survey and construct this massive site with incredible accuracy. Theories suggest the existence of a highly centralized leadership structure, capable of mobilizing and directing thousands of workers over extended periods, perhaps for decades, for a common purpose that transcended mere subsistence. What if the enigmatic poverty point objects, small, geometrically precise clay or stone spheres, were not just cooking stones, as commonly thought, but served as ancient weights or measuring devices, crucial to their monumental construction and astronomical observations? Other, more speculative ideas suggest that the entire site might have been a representation of a cosmological map, encoding ancient knowledge about the stars, planets, and perhaps even the structure of the universe as understood by these enigmatic builders. How could a society, conventionally considered to be largely nomadic or semi-sedentary, organize and execute such a colossal, geometrically precise construction project with apparent astronomical significance, demanding a level of social cohesion and scientific knowledge that challenges our very understanding of early North American civilization? What profound cosmic secrets were encoded in the earthen geometry of Poverty Point? And what does this immense, silent structure truly represent about its forgotten architects? As we stand before these ancient earthworks, Newark, Serpent Mound, Poverty Point, we are confronted not just with the scale of their construction, but with the almost impossible precision of their astronomical alignments and geometric design. These are not accidental features of an undeveloped people, but calculated expressions of advanced knowledge. They speak of builders who gazed at the stars with an understanding that transcended mere observation, integrating celestial mechanics into the very fabric of their landscapes. The deeper we look, the more apparent it becomes that these forgotten architects possessed a profound grasp of geometry, mathematics, and astronomy, encoding their cosmic insights into enduring earthen monuments. How was such breathtaking precision achieved without the known advanced tools and technologies we associate with such feats? What lost surveying techniques did they employ? And what profound cosmic secrets, what ancient narratives of the heavens, did they meticulously etch into the soil of North America, leaving us only these silent, awe-inspiring clues? Our journey through the ancient lands of North America has thus far unearthed a profound enigma, the silent grandeur of geometric earthworks, echoing with astronomical precision, and the remains of sprawling cities like Cahokia, testament to an urban sophistication we are only beginning to comprehend. If such a civilization possessed the intellect and organization to reshape landscapes on this scale, and to encode celestial knowledge into the very earth, then what other whispers of their presence might be found, not in the colossal, but in the intimate, not in the immovable, but in the handheld? As we delve deeper into the forgotten past, we turn our gaze to the objects themselves, the tangible fragments unearthed from beneath centuries of soil. Here, in the quiet solitude of museum archives and private collections, we find artifacts that resist easy categorization, pieces that challenge the established timeline and capabilities of North America's earliest inhabitants. They are unsettling, these remnants, for they speak of a forgotten technological heritage, of potential connections across vast oceans, or perhaps of a people entirely unlike any we know. Consider first the curious case of ancient copper artifacts. Across the Great Lakes region, particularly within what is now Michigan's Upper Peninsula, lies a vast wealth of native copper deposits. For generations, the mainstream view has held that early indigenous groups utilized this resource primarily through cold hammering, shaping the malleable metal into tools and ornaments with relative simplicity. We imagine small, camp-based communities patiently working the raw ore, relying on brute force and basic stone implements. The narrative suggests a gradual, localized development of copper working, limited in its technological scope. But there is a problem with this neatly drawn picture. The sheer scale of ancient mining operations in this region defies simple explanation. Estimates suggest that between 1.5 billion and 5 billion pounds of copper may have been extracted over millennia, leaving behind thousands of mining pits, some reaching depths of 30 to 60 feet. Furthermore, Some of the copper artifacts recovered from these sites display a purity and an intentionality of form that seems to transcend basic cold hammering. Intricate tools, delicate ornaments, and even smelted ingots have been found, hinting at a level of metallurgical understanding far beyond what is commonly attributed to these ancient cultures. The discovery of large, almost perfectly cylindrical copper ingots, weighing hundreds of pounds, begs the question, how were these massive pieces of metal not only extracted from the earth, but then transported and, in some cases, partially processed with a precision that speaks of advanced techniques? The implications are profound. Some researchers propose that the sheer volume of extracted copper, combined with the apparent sophistication of certain artifacts, points to a lost technological heritage. Could it be that these ancient miners possessed advanced tools or methods for extracting and working copper, perhaps involving localized heat treatment or even a rudimentary form of smelting that has since been forgotten? Other theories venture further, suggesting pre-Columbian transoceanic contact. The idea that ancient mariners from Europe or even more distant lands might have ventured to North America specifically for its rich copper deposits, bringing with them advanced metallurgical knowledge, has been explored by some, citing the similarities between certain ancient North American copper implements and those found in Bronze Age Europe. These speculative connections, if proven, would shatter our understanding of global exploration and technological diffusion. What mastery of metal, then, was achieved in these ancient North American lands, and how could such a significant industry and the knowledge behind it vanish so completely from the historical record? Beyond the shimmer of copper, we encounter the silent testimony of strange tablets and inscribed stones. Perhaps among the most controversial of these are the various artifacts often labeled as out-of-place inscriptions. Take, for instance, the so-called Newark Holy Stones, unearthed in 1860 near the vast earthworks of Newark, Ohio, which we have discussed previously. These include a keystone inscribed with Hebrew characters and a Decalogue stone bearing a condensed version of the Ten Commandments, also in Hebrew, accompanied by a carved image of Moses. The mainstream archaeological stance has, for over a century, firmly dismissed these as elaborate hoaxes, fabricated by 19th century settlers or even the discoverers themselves, designed to fit prevailing religious narratives of the time. The context of their discovery, often by individuals with known biases, made them easy targets for skepticism. But the persistent strangeness of these objects and others like them continues to nag at the edges of accepted history. While some instances may indeed be fabrications, the sheer number of such anomalous inscribed stones and tablets found across North America, often in disparate locations and over long periods, presents a pattern that is difficult to dismiss wholesale. Consider the Back Creek stone found in an undisturbed burial mound in Tennessee in 1889, alongside artifacts later identified as consistent with ancient Native American practices. Initially, the inscription was interpreted as Cherokee. However, later analysis by linguists and epigraphers suggested a striking resemblance to ancient Paleo-Hebrew script, dating possibly to the 1st or 2nd century AD. While hotly debated and often attributed to misidentification or later intrusion, the stone's context and the careful re-examination of its script by some scholars present a compelling, albeit controversial, puzzle. Could these inscriptions, if genuine, represent forms of lost writing from a sophisticated pre-Columbian civilization? Some alternative theories propose that these tablets are not hoaxes at all, but rather genuine evidence of early foreign visitors to North America. The idea that ancient Phoenicians, early Christians, or even Norse explorers reached these shores long before Columbus is not new, but these artifacts provide a tangible, if hotly contested, link. Could these visitors have left behind records of their journeys or shared elements of their written culture with indigenous peoples, only for that knowledge to be submerged beneath the tides of time and conquest? Or perhaps, as some more daring interpretations suggest, these scripts belong to a distinct, unknown human lineage, an indigenous population with its own unique writing system, now completely forgotten, its history erased from our collective memory. Do these cryptic markings represent a forgotten language, yearning to be understood, or are they merely echoes of a deliberate deception that continues to mislead us? Finally, we encounter the captivating world of unique carvings and statuary, where the artistic expression of ancient North America takes on an unexpectedly diverse and sometimes unsettling form. Mainstream archaeology often interprets these artifacts as variations within known indigenous cultures, artistic imaginings, or occasionally trade goods that traveled great distances. We categorize them, date them, and place them within established cultural frameworks, believing they reveal familiar stories of belief and daily life. But certain pieces refuse to be neatly filed away. Across various sites associated with the Mound Builders, researchers have unearthed intricately carved pipes, effigies, and figurines that seem to whisper of a world beyond the accepted narrative. Some carvings depict animals not native to North America, such as elephants or mastodons, in contexts suggesting a familiarity that predates their known extinction or human interaction. Other human figures exhibit cranial features, dress, or even symbolic gestures that seem to echo distant Old World cultures. For example, some of the so-called Mound Builder pipes found in Ohio depict individuals with elaborate headdresses, specific facial characteristics, or even poses that bear an uncanny resemblance to figures found in ancient Mesoamerican or even Egyptian art. While these are often explained away as coincidental artistic choices or exaggerated representations, the consistency of certain anomalous features across different sites and time periods gives pause. Could these unique carvings be more than just artistic variations? Some alternative interpretations suggest they are indeed evidence of pre-Columbian transoceanic cultural exchange, hinting at direct contact or shared iconographies with ancient civilizations from across the Atlantic or Pacific. Perhaps mariners from distant lands brought their myths and artistic styles, which then influenced the local artisans. Other theories propose that these carvings represent symbolic representations of spiritual beliefs that are now entirely lost to us, complex cosmologies that transcend our current understanding of ancient North American spirituality. And in the most speculative of scenarios, some researchers ponder if these carvings depict a distinct human lineage, a people with their own unique physical characteristics and societal structures, perhaps even a forgotten race that coexisted or predated known indigenous groups whose memory is preserved only in stone. What profound stories were these enigmatic carvers trying to tell, and why do their creations sometimes seem to mirror forms and symbols from lands far beyond their known world? As we hold these unsettling artifacts in our minds, from the impossibly pure copper tools to the enigmatic inscribed tablets and the strangely familiar carvings, a profound question settles upon us. If our current historical framework struggles to fully account for their existence, their craftsmanship, or their context, then what do these artifacts truly reveal? What deeper truths do they hold about the true age and the actual capabilities of North America's earliest inhabitants? Do they speak of a lost technological prowess, of ancient global connections, or of a distinct human story that remains largely untold, patiently waiting to be rediscovered beneath the layers of earth and time? The strange implements and intricate carvings we have uncovered force us to reconsider not only the capabilities of those who walked this land before us, but also their very identity. For centuries, across the diverse landscapes of North America, whispers have persisted, whispers of a time before recorded memory, a time when monumental deeds were performed by monumental beings. These are not merely fanciful tales, but deeply ingrained traditions passed down through countless generations by the continent's indigenous peoples. In the collective memory of many Native American tribes, there exist profound and consistent legends of a race of giant, often lighter-skinned, builders who predated them, from the Iroquois in the east to the Paiutes in the west. From the Choctaw in the south to the diverse nations of the Great Lakes, oral histories speak of immense beings, formidable in stature and often possessing great strength and knowledge. The Modoc recount tales of giants who taught their ancestors agriculture. The Navajo speak of a pre-human race of star people who were very tall. The Cheyenne and Arapaho describe a race of giant, hairy men who were their distant ancestors. These stories, rich in detail and cultural significance, depict beings who shaped the very land capable of feats beyond ordinary human strength, sometimes beneficent, sometimes terrifying, but always larger than life. The prevailing academic view often dismisses these accounts as pure folklore, as mythological exaggerations designed to explain natural phenomena or perhaps to lend grandeur to early tribal origins. Mainstream anthropologists suggest that these tales are symbolic, not literal, or that they may refer to early, robust human populations whose average height might have been slightly above later groups, then embellished over time. Such legends, it is argued, are common in many cultures globally, often serving to explain the inexplicable or to establish a lineage to a powerful, ancient past. They are seen as the imaginative constructs of pre-scientific societies, not as historical records of a distinct, colossal population. But there is a problem with this simplistic explanation. The sheer number of these legends, their consistency across vast geographical distances and unrelated linguistic groups, suggests something more profound than mere coincidence or parallel myth-making. Why would so many distinct cultures independently invent a similar narrative of giant predecessors? More unsettling still are the historical reports, often from the 19th century, penned by explorers, early settlers, and even respected antiquarians, detailing the discovery of unusually large human skeletal remains found throughout North America, frequently within the very mounds and earthworks we've been exploring. These were not mere exaggerations. They were often documented measurements. Could these widespread legends be more than myth? Could they be fragmented memories of a real, distinct population that once inhabited North America? Theories range from the fascinating to the truly provocative. Some researchers propose that these legends point to an earlier, genetically distinct human lineage that was indeed physically larger than subsequent populations, perhaps a robust, ancient human subspecies, towering over later arrivals who possessed a deep understanding of the land and the cosmos, enabling them to construct the monumental earthworks and intricate celestial alignments we have examined. What if these individuals, these giants, were the actual architects of sites like Cahokia, Newark, and Poverty Point? Their stature, in this view, would be a physical manifestation of their superior capabilities. Their immense strength a necessary attribute for moving stones and shaping the earth on such a grand scale. Other, more speculative theories suggest a connection to a global pre-flood civilization, or even to non-terrestrial influences, positing that the term giant might refer to more than just physical height, but also to intellectual or spiritual magnitude. The idea that such a population could have existed, a distinct and formidable people who left their mark across the continent, challenges our entrenched timelines of human migration and development in North America. If these legends hold a kernel of truth, if North America was once home to a civilization of people who were genuinely larger than us, what became of them, and what profound, forgotten chapter of history have their stories preserved for us? Building on these whispers of giants, we turn now to the material evidence, or rather, the peculiar lack thereof. Throughout the 19th century and into the early 20th, a multitude of documented accounts reported the discovery of unusually large human skeletons across North America. These finds were often made during agricultural work, railway construction, or early archaeological excavations of the ancient mounds. Descriptions ranged from individuals measuring 7 feet to, in some sensational cases, over 9 feet tall. These reports frequently detailed robust bone structures, exceptionally large skulls, and sometimes even double rows of teeth or other anatomical anomalies. Publications like Scientific American, the New York Times, and countless local newspapers carried these stories, often citing credible sources such as physicians, academics, and government officials. Even the Bureau of Ethnology, a division of the Smithsonian Institution, published records detailing several such discoveries. For example, in 1892, a group of scientists found skeletons measuring between 7 and 8 feet in height at a mound excavation in Ohio, their dimensions described as gigantic. Similar finds were reported in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and Tennessee, among many other states. The mainstream academic explanation for these numerous reports is one of skepticism, even dismissal. Modern archaeology largely attributes these historical accounts to a combination of factors: hoaxes perpetrated for sensationalism, misidentification of animal bones as human, exaggerated measurements due to poor excavation techniques, or the simple misinterpretation of individuals who are merely at the upper end of normal human variation. The argument is often made that if such colossal remains genuinely existed, they would be prominently displayed in museums and scientific collections today. The absence of these specimens from modern research institutions is frequently cited as definitive proof of their non-existence or misinterpretation, reinforcing the idea that the 19th century accounts were unreliable. But this explanation feels incomplete when confronted with the sheer volume and detail of the historical records. The consistent descriptions across disparate sources, often from trained observers, suggest something more than simple error or fraud. Why were so many reputable newspapers and scientific journals publishing what would later be deemed outright fabrications or severe misinterpretations? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, where did these skeletons go? If they were genuinely excavated and documented, why do they not reside in the collections they were supposedly destined for? The but moment here isn't just about the existence of the remains, but the systemic disappearance of the evidence itself. It implies either an extraordinary collective delusion among 19th century chroniclers, or, more intriguingly, a deliberate or unconscious suppression of findings that did not fit the evolving narrative of North American prehistory. This leads us to consider alternative theories that dare to bridge the gap between legend and physical evidence. Some researchers postulate that these vanished skeletons represent a true lost population, the physical embodiment of the giants from Native American lore. Could these be the remains of a distinct human lineage? Perhaps the original builders of the colossal earthworks, whose existence was actively suppressed because it challenged the prevailing scientific paradigms of the time, paradigms that favored a linear progression of human development and a specific narrative of indigenous origins. What if these robust, exceptionally tall individuals were a unique branch of humanity that flourished in North America long before the generally accepted arrival of modern Native American tribes, or perhaps existed alongside them for a period? The discovery of such remains would demand a radical re-evaluation of human history, genetics, and archaeology on the continent. It forces us to ask if the conventional understanding of early American populations is far too narrow, overlooking a physical diversity that once defied easy categorization. Could the robust bones have belonged to a people who understood the earth in ways we are only now beginning to comprehend, leaving behind a legacy not just of structures, but of an enduring physical presence now relegated to the shadows of history? If these exceptional skeletal remains were indeed real, meticulously documented before their disappearance, where are they now? And what crucial piece of our collective past have we lost by dismissing their existence? As we contemplate the possibility of lost populations and forgotten builders, a far grander, more devastating force enters our narrative: the very planet itself. North America, and indeed the entire globe, bears scars of a cataclysmic event that occurred approximately 12,800 years ago, marking the onset of a profound cold snap known as the Younger Dryas. It was a period of abrupt, intense cooling that plunged much of the northern hemisphere back into glacial conditions for over a millennium, interrupting a warming trend that followed the last ice age. But beneath the surface, a growing body of evidence points to a specific, violent trigger for this event. At sites across North America, Greenland, and parts of Europe, a distinct geological layer known as the Younger Dryas Boundary, YDB layer, has been identified. This layer contains a unique suite of markers: nanodiamonds, platinum, iridium, magnetic spherules, and charcoal, telltale signs of an extraterrestrial impact or an airburst event. This evidence suggests that a comet or asteroid fragment struck the Earth or exploded in the atmosphere, unleashing an unimaginable torrent of energy. The immediate aftermath would have been continent-wide wildfires, massive tsunamis from destabilized ice sheets, and a subsequent rapid plunge into an ice age, profoundly altering the environment and extinguishing megafauna like mammoths and saber-toothed cats. The mainstream scientific view, while acknowledging the Younger Dryas climate shift, remains largely cautious or skeptical of the impact theory. Many scientists attribute the cold period to more gradual processes, such as the disruption of ocean currents by melting ice sheets, or simply view the impact markers as localized phenomena, perhaps caused by terrestrial volcanism or other non-impact events. Catastrophism, the idea that sudden, violent, global events shape Earth's history, has historically been resisted in favor of uniformitarianism, the belief that geological and climatic changes occur slowly and gradually over vast periods. Therefore, the idea of a single, devastating cosmic impact triggering such a dramatic global shift is often met with considerable academic pushback, preferring explanations that do not involve such extreme and sudden disruptions. But there is a problem with attributing such a comprehensive global signature to localized or gradual causes. The growing body of evidence for the Younger Dryas impact, meticulously collected by a multidisciplinary team of researchers from diverse geological sites across multiple continents, is becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. The consistent presence of nanodiamonds, platinum, and other extraterrestrial markers within the same narrow stratigraphic layer, often beneath evidence of widespread burning, strongly suggests a singular energetic event. This wasn't just a regional forest fire or a minor volcanic eruption. It was an event powerful enough to dramatically alter global climate patterns and trigger a mass extinction. The sheer scale of the evidence forces us to reconsider the severity and suddenness of the events that shaped our planet's past, and by extension, the past of any civilizations living through such a time. Could this Younger Dryas cataclysm be the missing piece, the ultimate explanation for why a sophisticated, ancient civilization in North America might have seemingly vanished without a trace, leaving behind only tantalizing earthworks, enigmatic artifacts, and fragmented legends? Alternative theories propose that a highly advanced, pre-Younger Dryas civilization, perhaps even the giants themselves or their descendants, was utterly devastated by this global catastrophe. Imagine the monumental structures, the astronomical observatories, the metallurgical expertise, all brought to an abrupt halt by continent-spanning fires, super tsunamis, and an immediate descent into an ice age. This event would explain a sudden reset in human development, a catastrophic loss of knowledge, and the abandonment of advanced technologies. The earthworks we marvel at today, some researchers argue, could be the remnants of a culture that existed before this cataclysm, perhaps even designed in part to track celestial events that they foresaw, or as monuments to a world that was soon to be lost. Survivors, if any, would have been reduced to a primitive state, their advanced knowledge shattered, their memories distorted into the epic flood myths and world-ending legends found in indigenous traditions across the globe. This provides a powerful, cohesive explanation for the sudden disappearance of megafauna and the profound shifts in human habitation patterns that mark this period. It proposes that the builders of North America's ancient past were not simply forgotten over time, but were erased by a global cosmic event, their legacy buried under layers of ice, ash, and human amnesia. If North America was home to a sophisticated culture that vanished in a fiery cataclysm 12,800 years ago, our legends of giants and the geological evidence of a cosmic impact, interwoven tales of a lost epoch and a forgotten civilization that once flourished on this continent. We have journeyed through ancient lands, unearthed impossible structures, and listened to the whispers of a past seemingly erased. From the enigmatic geometries etched into the North American landscape to the celestial alignments that speak of forgotten sciences, and from the curious artifacts that defy simple categorization to the haunting legends of giants and cataclysms, a profound story has begun to unfold. But as we stand amidst the echoes of these incredible achievements, a new question arises, perhaps the most pivotal of all. Why does this grand narrative remain largely unwritten in our mainstream understanding of history? This question leads us to a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of historical inquiry, the very process of how history is assembled, interpreted, and presented to us. The prevailing academic view of North American prehistory, as taught in our schools and enshrined in our textbooks, posits a largely linear progression of indigenous cultures, evolving from simpler hunter-gatherer societies to more complex agricultural communities, culminating in the well-documented tribal structures encountered by European settlers. This narrative, meticulously constructed over generations of archaeological and anthropological research, attributes all significant pre-Columbian achievements, including the impressive earthworks and mound complexes, to the direct ancestors of modern Native American tribes, often within established cultural periods like the Mississippian or Hopewell. The general consensus is that these sites, while sometimes grand, are adequately explained by the known social structures, technological capabilities and religious practices of these indigenous groups, and there is no compelling need for a radical reinterpretation that suggests a distinct, more advanced or even earlier civilization preceding them. Anomalous findings, when they surface, are typically treated as isolated curiosities, minor deviations, or misinterpretations that do not fundamentally challenge the overarching framework. This mainstream perspective emphasizes continuity, careful observation, and a gradual, understandable development of societies, with a strong commitment to fitting all evidence within a cohesive and accepted historical progression. It is a narrative built upon a foundation of extensive fieldwork and scholarly debate, aiming for a comprehensive and culturally respectful understanding of the past. But when we begin to place the full weight of the accumulated evidence onto this seemingly solid foundation, a subtle unease begins to settle and the carefully constructed edifice appears to buckle under the strain. The problem arises not from a lack of scholarship, but from a persistent reluctance to fully engage with the truly anomalous aspects of the record, or a tendency to offer explanations that, while plausible on the surface, often feel simplistic in the face of overwhelming complexity. The scale, precision, and sheer number of the geometric earthworks we explored earlier, stretching across vast distances, often defy the explanation of ad hoc communal efforts. The intricate astronomical alignments, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, stretch the limits of coincidental placement to breaking point. The anomalous artifacts, crafted with unknown tools or materials, simply resist categorization within known technological capabilities, and the widespread consistent legends of earlier, highly capable builders, often giants, are frequently dismissed as mere folklore, rather than potential echoes of a deeper pre-cataclysmic memory. This but moment reveals a critical disconnect. The data, in its rawest form, often points to something far more profound than our current narrative allows. There is a perceptible hesitation, a scholarly reticence, to fully entertain the notion of a distinct, sophisticated civilization whose existence might disrupt our established timelines and challenge deeply ingrained assumptions about human development in North America. Sometimes this reluctance manifests as a swift reinterpretation of evidence to fit existing paradigms, or a downplaying of the most challenging aspects. In other instances, it has involved the literal destruction of evidence, particularly in the earlier days of archaeology, when countless mounds were leveled for agriculture or urban expansion without proper documentation, or when unusual skeletal remains, such as those described in historical reports, simply vanished from museum collections. The net effect is a kind of historical myopia, where anything that falls outside the accepted view is either minimized, explained away, or simply allowed to fade into the background, leaving us with an incomplete picture, shrouded by what some researchers have called the veil of forgetting. So, why does this veil persist? Why has the narrative been so carefully curated, perhaps even suppressed, in ways that obscure these grander possibilities? Theories range from deliberate acts of historical revisionism to unconscious biases deeply woven into the fabric of Western thought. Some researchers point to the historical context of early American archaeology, which unfolded during a period of intense westward expansion and the brutal displacement of indigenous peoples. During this era, particularly in the 19th century, there was a prevalent mound builder myth, which posited that the vast earthworks of the Ohio and Mississippi valleys could not have been built by the savage ancestors of contemporary Native Americans. This myth served a convenient political purpose, providing a justification for dispossessing indigenous tribes of their lands by claiming they were merely occupying sites built by a superior, vanished race, often erroneously linked to European or even biblical origins. While this particular myth was eventually debunked by dedicated scholars who demonstrated the indigenous origins of these structures, the lingering impact of this contentious period may have inadvertently led to an overcorrection. In the fervent desire to correctly attribute these impressive works to Native American ancestors and dismantle racist narratives, there might have been an unconscious tendency to oversimplify or understate the extraordinary complexity and technological sophistication involved, for fear of inadvertently resurrecting old, harmful stereotypes. The pendulum may have swung too far, from denying indigenous achievement to attributing all achievement to known indigenous cultures, thereby sidestepping the possibility of a truly distinct, and perhaps earlier, highly advanced precursor civilization. Beyond deliberate actions, historical biases undoubtedly played a significant role. The early European and American observers, steeped in their own cultural frameworks, struggled to recognize civilization outside of their familiar models of stone cities, written languages, and advanced metallurgy. Vast, geometrically perfect earthworks, while monumentally impressive, did not fit neatly into a Eurocentric definition of urban centers or advanced engineering. The oral traditions and rich mythological narratives of indigenous peoples, which might have held clues to deeper histories, were often dismissed as mere fables, lacking the credibility of written historical accounts. This inherent bias, a kind of cultural filtering, meant that evidence that didn't conform to preconceived notions was often miscategorized, misunderstood, or simply deemed less significant. It challenged the prevailing simplistic view of North America as a new world awaiting European discovery and settlement, rather than a land with its own ancient and complex history, rich with sophisticated societies that perhaps rose and fell long before recorded memory. Furthermore, the very nature of academic paradigms can contribute to this veil, challenging deeply ingrained narratives of human development, particularly the Clovis first, or generally linear progression models that have dominated archaeology for decades, is no small feat. The introduction of a sophisticated, pre-indigenous civilization in North America would necessitate a radical re-evaluation of not only regional history, but potentially global human migration patterns, the timeline for technological innovation, and even the very definition of civilization itself. Such profound shifts, often termed paradigm shifts, are rarely embraced easily by established institutions. There is an understandable institutional inertia where careers are built, textbooks are written, and research funding is allocated based on existing frameworks. To advocate for alternative theories, especially those that border on the fringe, can be professionally risky, leading to skepticism, marginalization, or a struggle for academic acceptance. It is often easier and safer to integrate new findings into existing models, even if it requires a degree of intellectual gymnastics, than to completely overturn the foundation. This collective phenomenon, whether born of historical circumstance, unconscious bias, or institutional inertia, has, in effect, drawn a veil over a vast, unwritten chapter of North American history. It has created a situation where the sheer grandeur and enigmatic nature of sites like Cahokia, the precision of Newark, the mysteries of the anomalous artifacts, and the compelling legends of a lost epoch are often discussed in isolation, rather than being seen as threads in a much larger, more coherent tapestry. This isn't necessarily a malicious act of cover-up, but rather a complex interplay of human factors that lead to certain narratives being amplified, while others, equally compelling, remain largely unheard or unacknowledged. But what if we collectively decided to lift this veil? What if we approached these anomalies not as inconvenient puzzles to be explained away, but as profound clues guiding us to a deeper truth? What if we embraced an open-minded, interdisciplinary re-evaluation of all the evidence, allowing the past to speak to us without the filters of preconceived notions or historical biases? Could an honest reckoning with the sheer scale and sophistication of these forgotten builders unlock not only a more complete history of North America, but also a more profound understanding of human potential, resilience, and the cyclical nature of civilization itself? What profound insights await if we truly acknowledge the forgotten architects of North America and dare to listen to the whispers carried by the earth, the stars, and the ancient stories?